Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. If you're in your early 20s and you've questioned, meaning, belief, good versus evil, inner conflict, purpose, or your place in this world, this episode is especially for you. Today, I'm joined by Terrence Rotering, a sci-fi and fantasy author and the creator of a powerful spiritual warfare magnum opus blending imagination, philosophy, and spirituality to explore the deepest battles within the human soul. In today's conversation, we are diving into meaning, inner conflict, special warfare, purpose, identity, and the unseen forces that shapes our life. So welcome to Conversations with Sekani, Terrence. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Joy. I appreciate you asking me or let me talk to all the folks that are out there and share some of the values and some of the things that I've learned in my life. So thank you for having me.
All right. So for those meeting you for the first time, who is Terrence and what led you into sci-fi, fantasy, and spiritual storytelling?
So Terrence Rotering is an only child born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is one of the states in the United States here. I'm 62 years old now, so I've had a long journey. Grew up, went to the Air Force Academy here in the United States, flew fighters for 20 years in the Air Force, then got out, went to NORAD Northcom, which is basically just a command that's there to protect the United States. And then I retired about 10 years ago and started writing stories. And the main reason I did so was just to start or to show my boys at the time that you could write books and that you could share your life and share your wisdom and lessons that you've learned along the way. And then since then, there's been a number of things that just kept it growing. And I realized about 3 or 4 times that I wasn't done yet and that there was more to tell in the story and more hope to give through the story.
Wow. All right. So, what personal experience influenced your interest in spiritual warfare and inner conflict? Actually?
So growing up, I've been a Christian my whole life, and there have been a number of times I almost died flying, and a number of other times I almost died just, you know, not being smart as a young person. We had a president that said, when I was young and stupid, I was young and stupid," and that I think is probably true of a lot of us. When we look back, we go, there were some things I did that just weren't very smart. But I realized at the time and going through all those different experiences, and especially looking back, that my faith and God and angels probably, although I didn't see them, but I know they're promised that they're there to protect us, and I know there's promises in the Word, and God really kept His word with me because He saved me many times, and that's really not that important because if I go, I'll be with Him. So as long as I'm here to serve Him and to pass on some of the promises that He's made in His Word. So, and that kind of led me in the spirituality aspect of the fiction.
Okay. Was there a defining moment that actually, inspired magnum opus? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Oh, that's okay. It's actually that's just a description of the whole almost 5,000 page journey. It's a magna opus. It's kind of like one of the things I think of in my life as being one of the great things that of the things that I've done, just one of the greater things that I've done in my life. But it's actually the Chronicles series and the different series books are what the name is. But yeah, magnum opus, it just describes a great work, if you will. So what inspired that? A moment in my life. So the first couple books in the Chronicles of Trinian, the first trilogy, was what I referred to before as just wanting to write to show my boys that you could actually write a book and you wouldn't have to just be reading them, you could write them. And so that happened actually in 2005, 2010, about 15, 20 years ago. And then it took me 15 years to finish that last book, Forever, in that trilogy. And after that point, some strange things started happening that kind of said, there's more to this than meets the eye. So it wasn't just me deciding to write a story. I wanted to write, characters in there that had faith and that had hope, and there was a reason for that hope. They had God and good forces working with them against the evil forces, because there's so much negative stuff out there now, as far as the fiction goes and fantasy, that you don't want to bring your kids to, or you feel guilty watching, or there's just things that aren't edifying for you. And I wanted to have books that people could read that were really positive and give them a lot of hope and show that there is design in the universe and everybody is unique and everybody's special in this world and that someone loves them and there are answers to the questions. A lot of the fiction and fantasy out there now just says negative stuff and leaves you with a bunch of questions, and you might enjoy it along the way, but then you feel bad about enjoying it afterwards. So I don't know that we have enough time to go into a lot of the things that inspired it, but one interesting story really quickly, I'll try to tell it in less than a minute. But when I was doing my third book, Forever, there was I was doing a map and I needed one little place up in the corner where the whole story started. And it was an island where, people that were misled, obviously, by demons. They were sacrificing their kids over a fire to a demon called Moloch. And I was like, oh my goodness, what do I call this place? And I had no idea. So I went back in my books, 2005, 2010, those two books, and then a new place that I just come up with for the third book. And I picked the first letter of each of those different places in the order they were introduced, and it spelled out Tophet. And I said, oh, Tophet. It's kind of got a ring to it. I'll do it. And so I wrote it and made the map with it and everything. And then a couple days later, I looked it up on Google, and the hair on the back of my neck all stands up when I say this because it's amazing. I looked it up and it said it's a place in ancient Israel, where in the Valley of Hinnom, where an ancient sect of Israelites was sacrificing their kids to a demon. And I was like, how does that happen? Because there's no way I could have even thought of it, 15 years earlier. I was just pulling these places out of my ear, as far as their names. And then the first letters just spelling out this place that happened to be the place that I needed was like really weird. And so there's been a whole bunch of stuff like that. And those things kind of kept me going through the second, third trilogy, and then the one that's about to be released in the spring that sums it all up. So that kind of gets to the answer to your question. It's complicated, Joy. It's complicated.
It is actually. And with what you said, now I'm realizing that there's a whole lot more that comes with writing a book. And that is, wow, it's inspiring actually. So, why do you think sci-fi and fantasy are such powerful tools for exploring deep human and spiritual truths, actually?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I've read some, but I've watched movies my whole life, and I think everybody around the world that goes to a movie and watches it, they're going because they kind of want to escape and they want to be a hero. They want to be really important. And when they leave those movies, a lot of times that carries with them for an hour or two, and they'll drive too fast or they'll do things that because they're trying to be that superhero. I think we all have an inner part of us that wants to know that we are unique and wants to know that we're gonna be victorious, like a lot of the movies show and a lot of the fantasy and sci-fi has. They have heroes, and so I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons that they're so catching for people. They want to relate with a character that's victorious and that's bigger than life. And if I may just plug in there that, in my books, there's 10 of them now, but in each one of them, there's heroes. And there's characters that are important in life, but they're not important necessarily for what they do. They're important for who's with them. And they're important because they realize that God loves them and that they are important, unique, special. And so that's what I try to give in my books on top of that fantasy and that excitement that everybody loves with their fantasy and their sci-fi.
Okay. With what you said, I feel like I know a lot about you now. Not necessarily a whole lot, but at least my listeners know more about you. So the purpose of my podcast actually, is for people in their 20s. So I'd like to ask you, what inner battles do you think young people face the most in their lives?
Okay, so I don't know if this fits with your format, but in the Air Force, they taught us, tell people what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then show them again what you told them. So real quick, just because someone could this is backwards, but I also thought of that. If someone wants to look at what I talked about and they don't want to look through the whole thing, I don't know, that's kind of not real clear. There it is. Anyways, so it says no fear, and then it has EVFLIGHT, flight, because I was a flyer. But then it has education, values, friends, love, invest, God, gifts, habits, and think. So that's something people could just freeze on there if they wanted to go back and because I'm a fast talker. So in the 20s. So I thought about this right before this podcast because I knew that was something that you wanted to focus on. And so I've got some advice for people that are in their 20s and as they're growing up. Okay, so I'm going to go through these kind of quick, and you feel free. I'll stop every once in a while, and then you can ask me about the questions or that you have. But starting off right from the top, know that life is a journey. Okay, so there's many chapters in your journey. You might be thinking in your 20s, hey, I'm already getting pretty old, because I know I was thinking that I'm 20 something already. And then when I hit 30, I'm like, oh my goodness. But now at 62, looking back, it's like, no, you're still a baby, believe it or not. You're just starting to learn the different things that you need to learn to get through life. So there's many chapters. It's never too late to try something new, to go some new place. So don't think you're going to get too bogged down or anything by your 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s, or 60s. I started writing when I was 60. So, and then don't measure your life against others. It has absolutely nothing to do with your life. Don't be looking at someone else and going, oh, I'm way behind, or, oh, look at me, I'm way ahead of that person. It's totally meaningless. Your life is your life. Number 3, know you're special. Like I talked about that a little bit in the beginning. You're unique. There's only one person like you. You have a purpose, and think of it as a puzzle. We're all pieces of a puzzle, and there's only one piece that's just like you. And if you all of a sudden decide to be like a different piece of the puzzle, guess what? The puzzle's not going to be complete. The picture's not going to be beautiful because you got two pieces that are the same and they can't fit in the same place. So you need to be who you are, because that's who the piece of the puzzle is that's right for you. And then number 4, before the break, is respect everybody. Respect everybody, work hard. Don't ever look down on other people. There's lots of reasons for that. If you don't want to do it just because it's the right thing to do, realize that, tomorrow that person might be your boss, or you might need that person. So that's not the primary reason to do it, but it's a good reason still to remember if you're in that bad mood or you're mad at them or whatever. Just remember, they're another child of God. They're another important person. They're another unique piece of the puzzle, and you need to build them up, and they will build you up. So I'll give it over to you, Joy, and I have about that equal amount again to share of important things that I've thought of in the last hour before the podcast. But I'll let you ask a question if so I don't just talk through the whole.
Truth is, I appreciate when my guests do the talking, because I feel like you have a whole lot to offer. So you can continue, actually.
Okay, super. And then having said those things, so I talked about it twice already. Here's number 3. Know that God loves you. So I hope that if you aren't a believer right now, that you will open a Bible and realize that God loves you, and that He's done everything for you, and He's there for you to help you. Then decide on your values. Values are going to be very important, because the next things I'm going to talk about are friends and family and people that you're going to spend your time with. And your time is your most important asset that you have in your life. So who are you going to spend your time with? You're going to spend time with friends that have your values. Why is that important? Because if you spend time with people that don't have your values, you're not going to have your values very long. So decide what your values are up front, and then find people that relate with your values, that believe the same things you believe, and that think the way you think. So that, the fastest way to get in big time trouble is to go with somebody and hang out with somebody and do things with somebody, even just once, that doesn't have your values, and before you know it, it could really mess up your journey in life. So once again, there's many chapters and you can still recover from that, but why would you want to start out negative? So decide on what your values are. Then they always taught us in the Air Force, keep it simple, and they threw a stupid on the end of it just to really, talk to us guys that were flyers. Keep it simple, stupid. And that basically means, you can come up with a really complicated life story or a plan, and that's okay, but back it off to just have one main goal, or just a couple main goals that you're trying to accomplish at one time. Just keep it simple. If the more complicated that you make it, the harder it's going to be to keep track of where you're going, of what you're doing, and to get where you want to be. So then set habit patterns based on your values and where you want to go. And those habit patterns will, I kind of think of them as mind, spirit, and body. So those habit patterns should take care of your mind. Read something, learn something. We had a guy that was an instructor pilot back in the day, and he would say, just spend 15 minutes studying the jet. Just 15 minutes a day, and you'll be the smartest guy in the whole wing. So just spend a little time learning something, and probably be something preferable that's along your track of where you want to go. And you'll be the smartest person of all the people around you, because people are kind of lazy. We all are. So if you can make yourself do that, that's great. And then your body's very important. What you eat, your exercise, all of that, everything you put in, that is what you are. So you have to take care of yourself, because that's the engine that keeps you going. And then your spirit. If you are a believer, get in the Word. Same thing. 15 minutes a day. Pray to God. Realize He's there, and He always says, "Don't be afraid." That's the no fear on the top of my next sheet. That sheet that I showed you is He says, "Don't be afraid. Just ask me for what you need, and then you can let it go." And I found that that's true with just about everything. I make lists of things because I'm all overwhelmed with all the things I got to do. As soon as you make a list and you put down what you have to do, you can set that list aside and say, "I'm going to look at that in an hour," and all of a sudden you're like, because you don't have to think about anything anymore. It's all written down. Just let it go. So it's the same with God, and knowing that He's powerful and He can take care of you, give it to Him, and then say, "I'm going to do my best now, and I don't really care what happens after that." And then invest. That's the last one that I've got on my list here. Invest, and that's invest money, invest time, invest talents, and invest in people. So money, of course, if you can set aside a little bit to compound, let that interest compound for you, 10, 15 years down the road, that seems like an eternity for now, or to you right now, is going to just be a lot for you later, and it'll really help you out. Time, like I said before, it's your most important asset. You could have money, doesn't mean anything. You could have all these things that you've done in your life. Okay, you're going to die anyways. Your time is your most important thing. What you do with it, how you spend it, the people that you care about that you spend it on, that's going to be the thing that you look back in your life and you're going to go, was this a good life or not a good life? All the material things are going to go to the side. They don't really matter, because when you get there, all that stuff, you can't take it with you. It's the people that you love, the people that loved you, how you've helped people, the things you've done for other people. That's going to really be what's important. And that gets into that last one, people. Give to other people your time, your talents, and your treasures, because that is really what's going to make a good life. So good friends, love, and giving to people, those are the things that are going to determine what a good life is. And that's just not, a Christian talking from the God point of view. That is a person that's lived 62 years and looked back. And the things that I'm most proud of and happy with are the friends, the family, and the people that I've spent time with, and the people that I've been able to help. So Sorry, Joy, I got all that stuff out, so now you can really hit me with a bunch of questions.
All right. So this has actually been really, really insightful. I feel like personally, I've learned a whole lot actually. And I hope my listeners too can take this and apply to their daily life because I will actually. All right. So my final question actually, because you've answered literally everything I wanted to ask you.
Oh,
Yeah, you did, which is actually nice. So what would you define success as?
okay. So that kind of got to my last thing that I did say. So maybe I did say everything, but we had a little time left, right? So what is success? So success is running a good race through your life. When you look back, and maybe, so all of these things that I've told you today, I've failed at a ton of these things. I wish someone would have told me all these things up front. My life would have been a lot easier and a lot better. So when I look back, the successful things that I've done have been my family, my friends, and then sharing like this with you. I'm just trying to share with people. If just one person can learn these things and it can help them through their life, that's going to be a successful thing for me. And that's why I started doing these things because the books are, I want to, pass those on. Yeah, look at Terry Rotering wrote some books, big deal. That's not really what's important. What's important is in those books and the hope that it shares with people. So that's the reason that I did that. If just one person can get the hope out of those books instead of all the negative and, chaos and just the crazy stuff that's out there right now, can get that from me, then that will have been a successful life. So, and of course, obviously what happens after this life is pretty important to whether you lived a successful life. But as far as this life goes, it's just, caring for other people, having good friends, my wife and my kids. Obviously, that's been an incredibly successful part of my life. And I guess all of us, just like we talked about before, where you go into a movie because you want to feel unique and you want to feel like you can be a hero. I guess that's what we really wanted. At the end of our lives, we want to look back and go, was I a hero in any way? And, how can we be a hero? You can't really do it in a sci-fi or fantasy way, but you can do it in caring about other people and loving them along the way and helping them along the way. And no matter what happens to you in your life and how good or bad it goes, if you can look back and name 5 things or 5 times when you really help somebody, you'll think you have a successful life. So that's what I would share with people. Just try to think about others. Um, that's what's going to make your life a success.
Thank you so, so much for this. I really appreciate this that we get to do this. And also, I learned a whole lot. And yeah, where can listeners get to know more about you?
Okay, so I guess you go to the book site and it's chroniclesoftrinian.com. It's all one word, Chronicles of Trinian.com. And on there, you've got all the books and you can find out where to find them. And I also have an email on there. So if you have any questions about the things we talked about today or the books or anything else in general, feel free just to pop an email on there and I'll get it and I'll answer you. So thank you so much, Joy, before you go for bringing me on and for letting me share. I appreciate it.
Thanks for also coming on here to share your brilliant ideas and experiences with us. All right, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked anything in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes.